Each of your clients, when they wrote you a letter, asked you to build something else besides just the skyscraper. For instance, one group might be building a mansion, another group might be building a train station, a third group might be building a city hall. When you design these buildings, you're going to have some important decisions to make about what they will look like. If you walk around your neighborhood, you'll notice that there are huge differences in the way the different buildings look. These are called architectural styles. And you'd be surprised how much architects argue about which style is the best style. Take a look at these two buildings here. Can you see that they're in very different styles? I want you to compare the two buildings. I want you to do a turn and talk and answer this question. What differences in style do you notice when comparing these two buildings? Let's put up 30 seconds and let's turn and talk. Okay, let's take a look at these two different buildings. This first building is a theater in Rome, and you'll notice it was designed in what's called classical architecture. This was the most popular style to build buildings in for many hundreds of years. Look at all the cute and interesting details in the building. Look at all of the different statues that they have, the fountain that's in the front of the building. Do you see how these columns have almost flower-like decorations? It's a little hard to see, but on the top there are words written, an inscription written right into the building. The windows aren't simple, there are decorations all around the windows. There's a gate on the top, more statues on the roof of the building. Look at the detail in this little archway in the middle. Overall, you'd have to say that this style of architecture is anything but simple. It's complicated, it has a lot of detail and a lot of decoration. This theater was designed in a classical style. Now let's take a look at the other theater, which is in what's called a modernist style. Modernist architecture is the exact opposite of classical, and you can probably see that by comparing these two pictures. Do you notice how there's almost no decorations on the outside of this theater? Everything is very simple and sleek. There are no statues, there are no details, there are no words written into the architecture. It's very simple. Do you see how everything is kind of like straight lines? There are straight lines here, even straight lines in the plaza. It's a very modernist building. Next time you're in the city that you live in, look around and see if you can see some different modernist buildings and some different classical buildings. And of course, it's not just theaters that have been designed in classical or modern forms. Here are two different houses. This is a classical house, and this is a modernist house. And here's two different post offices. This is a classical looking post office. Here's a modernist looking post office. Even skyscrapers. Here's a classical skyscraper, and here's a skyscraper done in a modernist style. Now, some people love classical architecture, and other people love modernist architecture. I wonder which one you like better. In a second, I want you to turn and talk with a partner. Which style of architecture do you like better, and why? Ready? Let's turn and talk. Now, in the world of architecture, a lot of architects have big disagreements and even arguments about which style they like better. Here's what classical architecture enthusiasts say. They say, look at the beauty of classical architecture. Look at all of the detail. They say classical architecture is more interesting, it's more likable, it feels more human. They critique the modernist style. They say it's overly simple. They say that it's boring. They also say it's too big and you can't relate to it. For instance, look at these two streets. When you walk down the street with the classical architecture, everything seems to be kind of the right size. The doors are about the size of an adult person. The windows are small. It's almost a little bit like the houses are looking down and smiling at you. Now look at the other street scene. When you walk down this street, it's a little bit hard to relate to the building. It's just like a big wall. It doesn't feel very human at all. But supporters of modern architecture have a very different point of view. They like how simple and clean the buildings are. They say it's more honest. They say all those decorations and flourishes are unnecessary. There's a famous phrase that modern architects use. They say form follows function. Here's what this means. They say the form, like the way the building looks, should follow the function, like what the building is for. So if you're building a train station, the function of the train station is to get the passengers onto the train. They'd say you don't need columns and statues and words written up on the train station. You just need to get the passengers onto that train. So they say the train station should be built with simple, clean lines that make it easy for the passengers to find the right train that they're supposed to get onto. But the classical architect would argue, you know what? It's not a very nice place to be in if you build a train station in a modernist style. There's nothing for the eyes of the passengers to look at. There's just big, long, flat lines of concrete. Why not add some decorations, they would say. When you build your skyscraper and the building next to it, you'll have to decide, do you want to use a classical style of architecture or a modernist style? We don't want to leave all the writing until the last couple